Hello everyone, we are going to tackle the law of exponents. Objectives. At the end of this lesson, the students will be able to define the term exponent, list the rules of exponent, solve the following expressions using the laws of exponents. So what are the exponents? Anyone? Exponents, also known as powers, are values that show how many times to multiply a number by itself. It is in the form of a to the n is equal to a times a times a dot times a. For example, 4 to the power of 3 is telling you to multiply 4 by itself 3 times. So we have 4 times 4 times 4 equals 64. The number being raised by power is known as the base, while the superscript number above it is the exponent or power. There are 7 exponent rules or laws of exponents that the students need to learn. Each rule shows how to solve different types of math equations and how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide exponents. Can you guess the first rule? So, the first rule is the product of powers rule. It's in the form of a to the n times a to the m is equal to a to the power of n plus m. When multiplying two bases of the same value, keep the bases the same and then add the exponents together to get the solution. For example, 4 squared times 4 to the 5th is equal to 4 to the 7. And 4 to the 7 is equal to 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, which is equal to 16,384. Another example, the quantity of 4x squared times 2x to the cube is equal to, multiply the coefficients together, 4 and 2, as they are not the same base. Then keep the x the same and add the exponents. So we have 8x to the 5th. Quotient of powers rule. A is in the form of 8 to the n divided by 8 to the m is equal to a to the power of n minus m. Multiplication and division are opposites of each other. Much the same, the quotient rule acts as the opposite of the product rule when dividing two bases of the same. Keep the base the same and then subtract the exponents values. Example, 5 to the power of 5 divided by 5 to the power of 3 is equal to 5 squared, and 5 squared is equal to 25. Another example, 5x to the 4th divided by 10x squared is equal to, the like variables in the denominator cancel out those in the numerator. You can show your students this by crossing out unequal numbers of x from the top and the bottom of the fraction. So we have, then simplify where possible. As you would with any fraction, 5 can go into 10. 5 times turning the fraction into 1/2 with the remaining x variable. So we have 1x squared over 2 or x squared over 2. Power of power rule is in the form of the quantity of b to the n to the m is equal to b to the n times m. This rule shows how to solve equations where a power is being raised by another power. Example, the quantity of x cubed to the power of 3 is equal to, an equation like the one above, multiply the exponents together and keep the base the same. So we have x to the power of 9. Power of product rule is in the form of the quantity of a times b to the n is equal to a to the n times b to the n. When any base is being multiplied by an exponent, distribute the exponent to each part of the base. For example, the quantity of xy to the 3 is equal to, in this equation, the power of 3 needs to be distributed to both the x and the y variables. So we have x cubed times y cubed. This rule applies if there are exponents attached to the base as well. For example, the quantity of x squared times y squared to the cube is equal to x to the 6th and y to the 6th. Power of a quotient rule is in the form of a to the n divided by b to the n is equal to the quantity of a over b to the n. A quotient simply means that you're dividing two quantities. In this rule, you're raising a quotient by a power, like the power of product rule. The exponent needs to be distributed to all values within the brackets it's attached to. For example, the quantity of x divided by y to the fourth is equal to x to the fourth divided by y to the fourth. Another example is 4x cubed divided by 5y fourth to the squared, quantity squared. Don't forget to distribute the exponent you're multiplying by to both the coefficient and the variable, then simply where possible. So we have 4 squared times x to the 6 over 5 squared times y to the 8 is equal to 16x to the power of 6 divided by 25y to the power of 8. Zero power rule is in the form of b to the power of 0 equals 1. Any base raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. No matter how long the equation, anything raised to the power of 0 becomes 1. Like for this example, it is in the power of 0 and it is equal to 1. Negative exponent rule is in the form of b to the power of negative n is equal to 1 divided by b to the power of n. When there is a number being raised by a negative exponent, flip it into a reciprocal to turn the exponent into a positive. Don't use the negative exponent to turn the base into a negative. For example, x to the power of negative 2 is equal to 1 over x squared. So let's review. Laws of exponents. Products of powers rule. Quotient of powers rule. Power of a power rule. Power of a product rule. Power of a quotient rule. Zero power rule. And negative exponent rule. So questions. Do you have any questions? If there's none, then let's go to exercises. Solve the following